There may be hope to restore the supposed Polo wreckage. The car made it to Joburg in one piece. I say one piece, but it was anything but in a good condition. And I've received the outcome of the assessment, and it's somewhat encouraging because it's not as bad as the insurance had initially set it out to be, because we've actually found that some components had not withstood any major damage or any damage at all. So I think, as I sit here, I've made up my mind. Forward we go. The restoration is going ahead. There'll be some risks that come with it, possible tears, but it's quite encouraging. And yeah, we're going ahead with it. Then assessment actually revealed quite a number of things, some which I was aware of and some which I was worried about. The first thing is the engine. So on the engine, the car had ran for some time before it had actually shut down after the incident, and I had not realized that I had actually lost oil. So as a result, I started thinking that chances are the engine could have seized and there could have been major damage to the internals. So the first thing they did was to actually inspect the engine. So they took out the engine, they rotated it, took out the sump, and they inspected the crankshaft. And that's where they found that, ooh, it had seen better days. So which meant that I had to get a new crankshaft, I had to get new big end bearings and main bearings. And yeah, there wasn't anything else besides that they actually picked up on the engine itself. So if I were to get those, then we should be good to go. Also, I thought. Then there's also the suspension. So on the suspension, the control arm had bent. So we decided to do a complete suspension refurb on the front. We changed the control arm, the stabilizer link, tie rod end, and we also changed the shock absorber on the right front. The left front, I was like, no ways. I had bled too much money, and I felt like, you know what, it was still quite new, because I think I had had it for only 6 months, if not less. So I felt, you know what, there's no need to change that one because there was no damage to it. Then there was also the subframe that had to go, the stabilizer bar, and then on the left hand side as well, we decided to change the control arm, tie rod end, as well as the stabilizer link. And after that was done, we then moved on to the cooling system. On the cooling system, pretty much everything had to go because the intercooler was beyond repair. The radiator had a bit of dents, and I just felt like, you know what, for peace of mind, let me rather get a new one. So a new intercooler had to be bought, a new radiator had to be bought, and also the fan for the radiator had to be bought. Then there was also the cradle, radiator cradle that had to be bought rather, because the previous one had been damaged, and I really wanted a neat, clean job. I didn't want to be cutting corners unnecessarily. Then the last thing was this, what they call it's not really a stiffener, because the stiffener was okay. This other, I forgot what they call it, but it was a very small thing that we had to get, but this just to support the bumper. And then once that was that, the thinking was the car would be fine. And as I'm sitting here, I have received feedback, and the car is running. It's up and kicking, and it's quite a heartwarming moment. Encouraging to say the least, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, because with these things you never really know. I always thought that I would get into car restorations and I'll have a car that I work on, a project car, but not under the circumstances. But we're here now, we might as well make the best out of it. Then yeah, I must say it has come quite a way, because from the time that, you know, the car usually got into the accident to when everything was taken apart, I mean, at some point I saw my engine on the floor and I was like, oh my goodness, this one, it seems like it's the end of it. But it's running now. It sounds like it's mechanically sound. There's no strange errors on the dashboard. But I mean, once everything is all said and done, we'll do a final health check before we take it on a long trip. Stay tuned for the next one, where we'll be talking panel beating and final reveal.